On to the final division, the AFC West. All right, we're going to start things off here with the Seattle Seahawks. So the Seahawks, it's going to be another year of run early, run often under second-year offensive coordinator Brian Schottenheimer. So Brian Schottenheimer, his style of play is just like his father, Marty Schottenheimer. He plays what's been coined as Marty Ball, which Marty Ball is you focus on the run game and then you use the passing game to further help the running game. Last year they led the league in team rushing yards. They were second in the league in attempts per game. They were less than one attempt per game behind Baltimore, who finished first. And they were sixth in the league in rushing yards per attempt, running at 4.7 a clip. I think they'll continue to run and be effective running. You got Chris Carson and Rashad Penny, two good running backs. And then, not to mention at quarterback, you have Russell Wilson, one of the best in the game. Very efficient. That being said, with running the ball more, they've been passing less. He saw a dip in yards last year, but he actually threw for a career-high 35 touchdowns last season. He only averages about 28 a year. I'd expect that to go down. He was crazy efficient throwing to Tyler Lockett last year. I believe he had a perfect passer rating in pass attempts to Tyler Lockett. Obviously, you don't expect that to continue. You do expect some regression from Russell Wilson. But you also saw him run the ball less last year. You may see that go up a little bit more. I think, the defense was pretty middle of the pack. They definitely took a step back last year compared to in the past when they've been a top 10 defense. I think they have the potential to get back to that top 10 defense. I think offensively, they'll run the ball, they'll wear people out, and then if they do need to pass, if they find themselves behind, they have the offense to do it with Russell Wilson at quarterback, Tyler Lockett at wide receiver. A little shaky after that, but I think DK Metcalf, rookie wide receiver, I think by the end of the season he'll come on strong there towards the end. I have the Seahawks playing very well, going 12-4. But I do have them as a wild card team, not winning the division at 12-4. Okay. On to the San Francisco 49ers. So last year, Jimmy Garoppolo, their starting quarterback, tore his ACL early in the year and really just derailed the entire season. What was high hopes, supposed to be a good season for them. They traded for him 2 years ago now. And he played well towards the end of the year. And, last year was going to be the year. Now, that's moved to this year. Kyle Shanahan historically has great offenses. One issue he does have, in my opinion, is they don't really have a true number one wide receiver. They got George Kittle at tight end, who's really the number one pass-catching option. But Kittle and Garoppolo, when they were on the field together, Garoppolo didn't utilize the tight end much. I expect that to change, obviously, after Kittle's breakout year. But, he may not use them as much as Kittle was utilized last year. Now, with the wide receivers, so what was kind of in the offseason, what seemed to be the way things were going was Dante Pettis, coming into year 2, was going to take over as that wide receiver 1 role. But he was playing late in the game in preseason 3, and Kyle Shanahan came out after the game and said he's still trying to earn a role on this team and show he's capable of doing so consistently, which I don't know if that's some sort of motivational technique, if he's just not performing well. It sounds to me like he's fighting for a roster spot, but then if you go and you look at the depth chart, him and Marquise Goodwin are labeled as your top 2 wide receivers. And that's the thing is, after Pettis on the depth chart, you have Marquise Goodwin, who's really more of a field stretcher and has struggled to stay healthy in his career. They drafted Debo Samuel and Jalen Hurd. Historically, rookie wide receivers aren't great. Second half of the season they're definitely better, but it's really that year two jump that they were expecting from Pettis in this year to become that wide receiver one. I think that's going to hold the offense back a little bit. They're just going to really lack that wide receiver that on third down when you need somebody to get open, he's going to get open. Yes, they got Kittle, but I think they really need. Hopefully, Pettis does develop into that wide receiver one that they need, but we'll see. Defensively, they had a top 15 unit last year. They would go out and they trade for D Ford. They draft Nick Bosa this year. I think that D line is going to be very good. And a good defensive line helps the secondary look better. I'm not very high in the Niners this year. I have them going 5-11. All right, the St. Louis Rams. Sorry, the LA Rams. They'll forever be the St. Louis Rams to me. There wasn't much change for the Rams this offseason. They're definitely just kind of trying to run things back like they were last year. They lose in the Super Bowl. They felt they were that close. They're really just hoping to do it again. They added some defensive pieces in free agency. Clay Matthews, Eric Weddle, and they re-signed Dante Fowler. They did lose Ndamukong Suh at D-tackle and linebacker Mark Barron, but they added through the draft as well. They were the 14th ranked passing defense and the 23rd ranked rushing defense last year. Obviously, you hope that rushing defense improves. Losing Suh is going to hurt on that D-line, but obviously when you got Aaron Donald at defensive tackle, you're going to be all right there. Like I said, offensively, not much has changed really. They bring Blake Bortles in as the backup quarterback. A little bit of turnover on that O-line, but nothing major. Their biggest thing is, will Todd Gurley stay healthy, and are they going to limit his touches? It seems like they're going to potentially limit his touches, rotate in Malcolm Brown and Darrell Henderson more, just to try and keep Gurley fresh so they don't have an incident where they're really not utilizing him in the playoffs. One reason I think they feel they can just kind of keep things as is offensively is Cooper Kupp tore his ACL mid-season last year. He's expected to be ready to go week one, but his presence was definitely missed down the stretch of the regular season and into the playoffs. He's a red zone threat and really seems to be one of Jared Goff's favorite targets. That being said, I think all three Rams wide receivers, Brandon Cooks, Robert Woods, and Cooper Kupp, all great wide receivers. Probably the best trio in the NFL there. Jared Goff, I think he'll improve another year in McVay's system. And I think they're going to have one of the best offenses in the league. I think you're going to see a little bit of improvement on that defense. And I have the Rams going 13-3 and winning the division. All right. The final team, the Arizona Cardinals. Cardinals made a coaching change this offseason. They bring in Cliff Kingsbury as the head coach. He was the head coach at Texas Tech and then I believe offensive coordinator at USC. He brings in the air raid offense that you've seen in college for a while now. He actually played quarterback in the air raid system under Mike Leach at Texas Tech. And then he's basically ever since then been kind of a quarterback's coach, an offensive coordinator where he's been used the air raid system. He brings in an experienced defensive coordinator in Vance Joseph. He was the head coach for the Broncos last year. One of the top defensive guys a few years ago, hence why he got that head coaching job. And with the first overall pick, they drafted Heisman winner Kyler Murray, a player who he does have some experience. in that air raid style system. You expect that to help. And last year they finished dead last in total yards, passing yards, rushing yards, and points. All major categories just dead last. There's really only one way to go, and that's up. Their offensive line is a concern. PFF has them ranked 30th going into the season. Obviously not good, but I think you'll see probably some quick passes to try and help mitigate that poor offensive line. It'll improve. Obviously, like I said, there's nowhere to go but up. They also brought in some rookie wide receivers, Andy Isabella, Hakeem Butler, Keyshawn Johnson. Hakeem Butler is going to start the year on the IR, unfortunately. But I think those rookie wide receivers will help. They also brought in Michael Crabtree, who played in the air raid system in college. Just kind of another veteran guy to go with Larry Fitzgerald there, wide receiver. And I think David Johnson will improve as well in this offense. Now, defense last year, they had a fantastic passing defense. They were fourth in passing, but they were 32nd rushing, dead last. And I think one thing that hurt them is a defense overall is their offense was so poor last year that they spent a lot of time on the field, and a lot of times teams were just trying to run the clock out. They were running more than they were passing. They did go out and add some defensive players. They added Jordan Hicks at linebacker, Darius Fallon at defensive tackle, and Terrell Suggs at outside linebacker to hopefully help that defense get better. I think under Vance Joseph, he'll help turn that defense around. That being said, I still don't expect them to be great. I have the Cardinals going 4-12.